Hey, Lee. Hi, River Subdivision. How's it going, bud? You popped in pretty quick. And hopefully you can hear me okay. It should be okay. Picture-wise, we're doing all right. Just going to learn to look over there. Maybe I should find my live stream, though, so I can see everything. Ha-ha. You always do that, too. And Steve87 PSAP, how is it going? And Nissy, nice to see you popping in. You always do that. If I mute that, we won't hear it. It's always a good thing, too. Put myself on live chat instead of top chat. I don't know why YouTube has live chat and top chat. I'm just not going to understand that. I never will. So, can't really see. Got Wilmer's sticker up behind me. Can't really tell, though, that it's Indian Head Valley. Just looks like a little white dot. Oh, well. Wonder if I can fix that. Let's see. This, camera. Nope. Show advanced. Says 720. I'm going to go with 720. I'm not going to screw around with that. Hey, Mark, how are you? Dwight Curley, nice to see you. Gus, popping in, jumping someone else's train. Hey, Spark. Hey, Gus. Hey, Mark. Hey, Lee. Hi. Hey, Steve. Hey, Alex Brockway. Nice to see you popping in, bud. And we got Pensy popping in, saying hi to everyone. And I put the link up. I'll put the link up again a couple times for you guys to pop into my basement. We got great discussion tonight. I think it's the discussion nobody wants to talk about. DC or DCC. And if you're going to go with DCC, what system do you go with? And I'm sure a lot of people in the chat might even have that question in their minds anyway that are DC. So Daniel Coombs, how are you? I would go with DCC sounds and other effects make the layout operate realistically. Well, Daniel, if you want to come on up and have a little conversation about that, not a problem. Just click that little StreamYard link that I popped in. You pop into my basement and I can bring you up on the screen, bud. Anybody that wants to come up and have a little discussion about this, say your point of view on DC, DCC, and what system that you think is the best, or even what system you've had problems with, that would be nice to know about too, so people know about it. Heath, come on up, bud. And like I said, I've put a link in the chat. I'll do it a couple times. And it'd be nice to get a nice discussion about this going. I know it's a controversial subject. A lot of people, this isn't a place to argue. We just want to say some points, maybe help some people out in trying to figure out if they want to go DC or DCC and what system they could go with, I guess. So pop in, hit that link, and we'll get some talking going. Have to go to a birthday dinner. Won't be able to join. I will watch for a little bit, though. Okay, that's cool. No problem, Daniel. I got a little while. I got June 25th. Then I go for my birthday dinner. I'm just going to ask for lobster. That's it. Lots of lobster tails. I'd be happy with that. Give me 6 lobster tails. That's it. Amy makes really good lobster tails, so it's pretty cheap. Well, it's not cheap, I guess. Grocery store is pretty expensive. She cooks it all up. I think she's done them on the barbecue a couple times too. But we'll stop talking about food. This is supposed to be DC or DCC, not about food and restaurants. I do have some trains running in the background. I got 4 trains running tonight. Had them running for about 40 minutes. So far, we're doing okay. What's not working, Container Man? The link. You can try to copy that again. Put it in this chat over here and see if it comes up. Anthony Dodge, the model train outsider. Nice to see you popping in. So there's the one link. I put that in the actual StreamYard chat. And then I'll paste the other one in the YouTube chat and see if it works a little bit better. So, see, I got 4 trains going. Camera doesn't do it justice. It's kind of blurry going back by there, but I kind of like it. I'm going to say it. I like the helix. I like the oval concept of having that helix. And originally I was going to talk about track plans and doing layouts and stuff like that, but I thought, I really want to get this DC and DCC thing out there. So, let's see. Brian Page is popping in. See, I don't even have my own shirt to wear. I got to wear TSGs. So, more Sparky from Melbourne, Australia. How are you? Midsummer Railway N scale. And Dragon Lover 68 popping in. And John number 2 with School Kill River Valley. And I'm hoping these links are working. Nobody's popping up in my basement. Nobody wants to talk about this subject. So while people are looking for that link, clicking the link and come on up. The only thing you got to do is make sure YouTube is muted if you're going to pop up on my screen there. That way we don't get that little bit of a loop thing going. So Brian Page, hey Lehigh, cousin Vinnie must be here because someone said hi to him. Joe Rader, Black Rock Central Railroad, nice to see you. CP368, popping in. Kenward Griffin Jr., how are you? And Mr. Digger Evans, got a little train in the back for you too, running. See if you can find it. Probably going to be a while. Oh, it's right there. So it's just about midway up on the helix. Hey, and I do see someone popping in. Hey, it actually made a sound when someone popped into my basement. That's kind of cool. So I do want to show off one thing. I got a bit of a mail call, and I'm telling you, when I got this mail call, I was really, really excited about it. Now, the first thing that I got, and I've joined the Conrail Historical. Hi, Alex. Hold on, bud. I've joined the Conrail Historical Society. So they find Conrail cars, locomotives, things like that. But they are into preserving Conrail history. And one of the books they have out right now is Conrail Cabooses. And it is like 300 pages, 308 pages about nothing but Conrail cabooses. And this isn't a really good picture of one, but this bottom one right here, and the number of it is 23120, and it's brown. There is another page in here that is all brown cabooses. I didn't even know Conrail had a brown caboose. Cabooses. Nissy, cabooses. Don't get he started on caboose, cabooses, or any of that stuff. Hey, Roy Smith, how are you doing, buddy? So, the one I want to show right there, I'll get it nice and close with a bit of a glare. That is brown. And like I said, I didn't know Conrail actually had brown cabooses, but I guess they were for special service. And the one I got, it actually says it's for coal service. And I think the book says something else. I think it said maintenance away was actually brown. But HON5C caboose, Conrail, PPNL coal service. And it's a Bowser. And I got this from James Tedesco. And when I got that, I'm going to tell you, I did the oh my goodness. Because I just got that book a week ago and flipping through it, and I saw that there was brown caboose, or caboose, or cabooses for Conrail. And then James Tedesco actually sends me one. And that's really cool. I don't even have a caboose with the round windows and stuff on it like that. So I can't wait to actually get that running on my layout. But James Tedesco, I didn't see you pop in here yet. Maybe you'll pop in or watch it later. But thank you very much for that. And the little bit of a lesson learned type thing. So very cool. And like I said, once I got that Conrail caboose book, now I want to actually start buying lots of them. Lots of cabooses or cabooses or cabooses or whatever you want to call them. So, and we got Art in here from PDRR Engineer. A really neat caboose. I really think it's awesome. So has Vinnie said. And Dragon Lover saying hi to Randall. David Atkins, nice to see you. Merton, how are you? I thought Conrail MOA was yellow or MOW. I haven't seen any yellow ones in there. I did see brown. I've seen gray. Green was Penn Central. So Justin's always lurking in the background. N Scale Union Pacific Evanston Subdivision. You should get all dressed up and well, no, sorry. You should have Justin come up here and talk to us about DC and DCC. And we got William from New Fenris Railroad. Hey, Spark and all in the chat. So I'll put that link up one more time. You are a great cabooser. David Atkins, that's a good one. I like it. So I just want to throw this out there. Some people are still new in the hobby. Some people have DC. Now, I understand the concept of running DC and sticking with DC. Locomotives and stuff is a lot cheaper. by at least $100 in Canada anyway. And Chris, nice to see you popping in. Go via, go home. And the other thing with DC is, like, if you start out in DC, you go to train shows and stuff like that, you can pick up a lot of DC locomotives and power units, 5, 10, 15, 20 bucks, 50 tops type thing in one of the train shows, right? So it's cheaper, a lot cheaper. You get quite a fleet of DC locomotives going. And then you're thinking, okay, now I want DCC. A, what system to get? And B, how do I put decoders in all those? So it can be quite costly at the start to go DCC after you've been DC. Now, I'm going to screw that up many times tonight. I can guarantee it, because that's a lot of D's and C's to say. But in saying that, when you first get into the hobby, would you want to make the decision right off the bat? And that's the discussion I want to have tonight. So hopefully people will click that link and come up and not be scared to talk to us about DC or DCC. I know, like I said, it is controversial. Does start arguments if you're in the Facebook forums and all that stuff. And this isn't a Facebook forum. It's YouTube, and we're all nice and friendly here. So, but I'd like to get everybody's aspect on it. Do you start DC and move up later? Do you start DCC? And if you're going to, how do you decide what system to actually get? And that seems to be one of the big questions a lot of people have too. So now the reason why I went with NCE system is I'm half blind. If I'm not wearing my glasses, I can't read nothing. So in the NCE system, you can see right away how big the buttons are, how big the controller is, and the numbers, and you can read that. Now, I don't have a DCC system here, so maybe Vinnie will click on the link and come up here and talk to us and show us his DCC system that's Digitrax. And like I said, that was the biggest selling feature for me, was just the fact that I can actually read my controller without my glasses on. So what system is it that is best for you? Oops, I should click that. But we're going to bring Alex Brockway up. And he's showing off a bit of his layout right now. Hey, Alex, how's things going?
Good. How are you? Can you hear me all right?
Oh, I can hear you fine. You're yelling at me.
Uh-oh.
I have my speaker turned up
I
a
hear
little
myself
bit.
echoing.
There we go. Hopefully you don't echo too much over everybody else. So when you first started out your system, your train layout, were you DC right off the bat or DCC?
I was DC. We didn't even know what DCC was at the time.
Yeah, I was kind of in the same boat too. Like, I lived in a small town up north, and I was probably 25, 30 years old when I actually got my first layout as mine. My dad wasn't involved or nothing. And they had no idea what NS or DCC was. Everything there at the hobby shop was DC. I didn't know about DCC until I actually moved into the city, started watching YouTube, and guys are making trains do sounds and stuff. It's like, oh, I want that. That's cool.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, we figured out, oh, hey, you know what? We're going to try this. So we bought a locomotive with sound. And we had no way. Well, it came with one of those little tiny remote things that, like you got with that Mantua locomotive.
Yeah.
Then we decided, hey, let's go farther into this. Then we went with this MRC Tech 6 sound controller. Uh-oh, got a locomotive off.
Well, I got one trying to push the other one.
Oh, nice.
And I think he's stuck to it.
Yeah.
You keep talking.
We decided this wasn't good. So we went with this for a couple years or so. Then the next thing we did, we went over to this Digitrax. That's not going to come in good with the glare from the lights, but this Digitrax DCS 210 Plus. And that's what I'm using currently. Got it off of a Yankee Dabbler. Works pretty nice. And it also came with this, forget what it's a DT602. Press the little button. It's also got a little flashlight on top.
So that's part of the Digitrax system then?
Yes. Not the power button. You got to press this button. See the flashlight?
Oh, I do now if I look at the right screen.
And it works pretty easy. Just like, for example, you press this, and then I got loco number 2301 by Finger Lakes Railway, so I'll just punch in 2301 1. Numbers are big, so you can see.
That caboose is flying down my helix.
I can see that. Then you press the loco button again. Then, because I already have it on the other thing, do I want to steal? So I want to steal, yes. So then I'll press number 8 to turn the sound on.
Everything was working fine until now.
Then I'll turn up the dial.
Here. Everything works fine here for 40 minutes. Turn on the live stream and everybody crashes into each other.
Oh, I know, it's crazy. And then it works fine. I love it. It works great, not fine.
So
At first,
what made you do the jump into DCC then?
I don't know. What made us do it? Well, because of the sounds and the lights. Well, this Finger Lakes was really one of my first DCC sound locomotives.
Now, Finger Lake, most people probably haven't heard of that railroad.
No, but we went to a train show. Can you believe it? It was the May 1st and 2nd.
Wow.
And I picked up this. It's Beaufort Shops is the person that makes it, and of course it wants to come off, but
live stream.
Yep. And it's a Finger Lakes Railway caboose. Got a good deal on it. So I know it doesn't like the live stream. And also with your Digitrax system, there's a switch button that's a little S.
Yeah.
So now watch the switch. I use Atlas Snap. And then I'm going to press, this is switch number 2. So I'm going to press 2, switch. Then it's either going to say thrown or closed, so I'm going to throw it. Or now I'm going to close it. And it closes and opens this section here.
So with your system, you can run locomotives and stuff, and accessories also, your switches and things.
Yes. Right here, I'll show you. Iron Planet Hobbies, there's a cat on the floor, sells these things. It's a DigiKeys. There it is. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
Controls 8 switches total. They also make bigger ones. Ignore the wiring.
That's probably neater than mine, and I'm an electrician.
Well,
So-
I do. I run a lot of the wiring. And then
So,
Dad
Alex,
hooked it up.
you start out with DC. How many locomotives and stuff did you have before you went DCC?
Oh, 20, 30 maybe.
Okay, so have you converted them all to DCC?
A good majority of them. There's still a couple sitting over here that aren't really worth converting, like this old River Rossi, and I have this Lehigh Valley Snowbird. It's a lifelike. They don't really run amazing, but that's why we didn't convert them. Why waste a decoder on something that doesn't really run?
So you're picky and choosy then too.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, I'm going to say I don't need any more locomotives right now, but all set. I know I sold all my DC locomotives and I bought 2 nice locomotives. Then
Okay, so one final question I'm going to ask you then is,
Tsunami 2s and
final question I'm going to ask you, and then I'm going to bring up Anthony Dodge, but we'll leave you
All
up
right.
for a bit. Is if somebody was going to talk to you about starting a train layout, what would you tell them to do? DC or DCC?
I'd tell them DCC.
And what system would you tell them to get?
Digitrax.
And is that just because you use it?
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know about NCE. I'd have to ask somebody.
Well, get your passport and come on up and play with them.
All right. Well,
You
I
can
will
bring
as
your
soon as
dad
the
too.
whole. Well, I will as soon as the whole showstopper's over and I can get over the border.
I know they're talking like the end of September, end of summer, opening that.
Oh
border.
wow.
Yeah, I'm not happy with that. But anyway, that's a different subject. Okay, I'm going to bring up Anthony Dodge, and we're going to get his
All
take
right.
on this. We're going to leave you up for a while. I've only got 5 in the or 4 in the basement, so we might have a little bit of a discussion. Who knows?
All right.
If you see something in the chat you want to talk about, let me know because haven't watched the chat for a bit.
All right. Sounds good.
Hey, there's Anthony.
Hi. Am I on?
You are, sir.
Okay.
And that's a great looking shirt.
Yeah, my daughter made it for me and just delivered it today.
Perfect. What was the occasion for today?
She got it done.
Well, that kind of goes with the concept then.
What's that?
So I said that kind of goes with the concept then of got it done. DCC or DC.
I am DCC.
You are, but have you always been that way?
Yes, because I thought normally I probably wouldn't have come up, but I thought I would share sort of the opposite because I am more new to this hobby than most 12-year-olds. I've only been in the model train hobby for 5 years, and I was into DCC. The first train I bought was DCC. I thought that's what it was, and I'm a bells and whistles person. I like all the sounds, the functions, and everything else. And so once I realized I was DCC, comparing it to the analog systems I had as a kid, there's no comparison. I would never go back. In fact, if I had started with DC again, if I just bought a DC train, I probably would not be doing YouTube or live stream or anything else. I might have gotten kind of bored with it fairly quick, but it's all the new stuff they do that attracts me. But I'm also still a complete noob. I don't even understand building all the wiring in a DC system. I mean, I understand wiring. My father was an electrician, but in terms of like my system, and some of you that have been to my channel know my system, it's DCC it's advanced DCC for dummies. It's all built in. So all I do is plug in one set of power wires and everything's good to go. My turnouts are digital. My track is fully digital. I don't have to drop bus wiring. And yet I get all the advantages of the digital decoder technology with all my trains. So all the sound functions. Some are probably a little ridiculous, such as the sound of people eating on a restaurant car, but overall it's still cool. So DCC all the way.
Yeah, but that's the one joy about DCC is you can add things like that, different sounds and things like that, like people eating on train cars and stuff like that. They're even coming out now with rail cars, like stock cars and stuff, cows, chickens, things like that. So
right,
it's not just the locomotives that you're controlling anymore with DCC.
Right.
So it is a good way. Now, how did you learn about DCC then?
I fell into it. I mean, I don't want to take up too much of your time. Anybody who knows me knows I run European trains. I don't run American trains. So after several trips to Germany, and I heard about this company called Märklin, I bought a Märklin train. Well, all Märklin trains are automatically digital and DCC. So I had to buy the appropriate track and the appropriate controllers. So it was just, I bought the train and voila, whether I was ready for it or not, I'm DCC.
Really? These trains are just not going to stay on the track tonight. So your advice to anybody getting into the hobby then?
My advice, of course, is number one, it's always do what you're comfortable with. If a person could afford DCC, the higher price, I would say just start DCC. But if you're a kid or a young person without a big budget, then start DC and then maybe work your way into DCC. But as many people have said, as you've said many times, then you got to make that decision. All those old trains, are they worth upgrading to DCC? Because it's not that hard to upgrade them. It really isn't. No. Now, some of the older models trying to get a chip in there, maybe, but overall, it's not that difficult to upgrade. The wiring inside the train, that it's a couple extra wires, that's it, and you're pretty much good to go. I know I'm simplifying. I apologize.
Yeah, but no, if you get into the really old stuff, you got to unground the trucks and the locomotive itself, run some. It's a little extra wiring and stuff like that. But again, you don't have to switch everything over to DCC like Alex was talking about. He switches the ones that he wanted at start, right? So
right.
But yeah, the cost is a big thing. I know in Canada, you're looking at about $100 extra if you want DCC.
Company and everything else. I can only talk German companies. I can only talk about the German companies. And I know Märklin everything Märklin has a chip in it. But whether you get the scaled down version to the multifunction version, the difference is going to be 50, 60 euros. So yeah, 70 to 80 bucks. Now, Pico, PIKO German company, their most scaled down versions, some that are analog, are $100 to $200 cheaper than their advanced chipped train. So yeah, there is definitely a price, but you can get from a company like Pico, you can spend about $120, 100. Well, all right, let's up that a bit. About $140 and get a locomotive with lots of functions, lots of sound features, and it's DCC, but it's still only about $120, $150 for that American dollars for that.
Now, I think that's one of the things with the companies nowadays, too, that they're looking at is a lot of people are switching to DCC and they want to make it easier. So even DC locomotives nowadays, the price is starting to go up because all there is plug and play chips. You want to go DCC, you go out, you buy the board, and all you got to do is stick a 21 pin decoder into the board and you're good to go. You're DCC.
Yeah, and you can even do an 8-pin decoder for a lot less and get basic functions, but a couple of lights and a couple of sounds, and so it's not that expensive. But yes, if you're used to, you mentioned it earlier, if you go to the train show, you can for $20 you can pick up a nice DC loco that still runs, maybe clean it up a bit, you're good to go. You're not going to go find a $20, $30 DCC locomotive.
No.
At a train show. You're going to probably start at about $100 for a used one and go from there. But again, quantity versus quality.
True. So some good points. So your big thing is, like you said, you started out with DCC. Again, you model the European stuff, but you would never, like, if heaven forbid something happened, you had to start over. You'd start again in DCC right off the bat?
Absolutely. I would. Yes. DC, I would and I apologize because people, I might do your thing. It's your thing. Do it. But for me, DC would be boring.
I kind of agree with you. Once you go DCC and you get the sounds, and it does add a great element to the switching aspect, running the trains, the horns, the bells, the whistles, whatever you want to say. It's just an aspect that you fall in love with. Once you're stuck on it, you're always going to be there. I think that's my personal opinion. So
well, it's what hooked me this time. I mean, I got a train set as a kid, bored me to tears. Getting this train, seeing what all it did, and then because again, it's not just a locomotive. I mean, yes, you can run your turnouts, but it's a million times easier to do it in DCC to digitize your turnouts. And I mean, everything runs from my central station right here. I just have this one controller. I don't have to switch. And even with some of you guys with your digital controllers, okay, I want to operate this controller. I got to go, okay, hang on. Function 23. Okay, now 3. Mine, it's one button on and it's ready to go. I click it, it's open. I click it, it's closed.
Yeah. A lot simpler, I think. And the wiring is a lot simpler. Like you said, you can run just a basic bus wire, and that can go to everything for DCC. So I'm going to bring Vinnie up. He's got the Digitrax system. Hopefully he's got one in his hand that he can show us just as a comparison. Can you show yours, Anthony, right off the bat, or is it?
What, my control system?
Yeah.
Yep. Hang on. Come here, camera. Here it is right here. This is my Maryland Central Station 3. And I don't have quite enough slack in this stupid camera right now. Come on. Nope, that's all the slack. So I'll just have to slide it all over here. But yeah, this is my Central Station 3, and I can control up to 10 trains across the board. But if I touch screen, let me drop my train, come on down. But like you can see, here are some of my turnouts right there on the screen. So if I want to operate them, I would just I'm in stop mode, so it's not going to work.
Now, is your system really expensive?
This cost me $500. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to throw that out on the NCE system. A starter set, you're running about $160 to $200.
Now,
so
this is the smaller version of that, and this cost about $120.
And that would just run a system starting out?
It would run everything this does. Just you're dialing through buttons and switching through screens, where this one, it's all on one screen.
Very good. Very cool.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to switch over to Mr. Vinnie, the cousin.
Drop out.
Hey, what's going on, people? Can you hear me?
Anthony, you can stay up. Just mute yourself for now. But if there's anything you want to say afterwards, you can. If not, you can just pop out like that. So, Vinny, I showed the NCE system. Hopefully, you got one of yours sitting right there. But like I said, the reason why I like the NCE system is the buttons are big. I can read it without my glasses on. Fits in the hand really nice. Digital display screen. I'm not trying to sell anybody an NCE system. I'm just saying that's what I use. Now, the reason why I bought mine, like I said, it was the first system. I walked into the store. That's what I saw. That's what I bought. And I've gone with it ever since. So now your system's Digitrax.
Yes.
So let us know a little bit about that system to start off with.
Well, you know, I really can't compare either one of them because I never used an NCE system, so I don't know how it is. I've been on Digitrax ever since I started in the modeling end scale, which is almost 30 years. I do have one of my controllers here. This is a DT402, I think. No, this is a DT500. And now this is one of the newest ones that they have, but they have ones that are even newer than this now. Now I know you, Sparky, have used both systems.
Yeah, I have.
And I know when you come to my house, you hate using this guy.
I don't like the big throttles for Digitrax. I like the little handheld ones.
The little utility throttles, yeah.
Yeah, those can run.
Like I said, I can't really say anything bad about NCE. I just never used it, so I don't know.
Right.
The reason why I went with Digitrax is because in the late 90s, when I was still living in California, a buddy of mine, Jeff, and I used to go to these train shows on weekends. And it was the first time that I've seen a person set up a table, a person from Digitrax set up a table and actually show us how DCC works. And I got hooked on just watching it. And I said, one of these days, I'm going to get that.
Now, have you always been DCC then?
No.
So when you started out, you were DC?
I started out in DC. But then again, like with all the different functions that you can get with DCC is why I kind of permeated to that.
So when you were DC, how many locomotives and stuff did you have?
Not many. When I was getting back into trains is when I was married and my first kid was on the way.
Right.
And so I was limited to what I could have. And I actually started in HO and quickly realized that I needed to get the N scale because I just couldn't do what I wanted to do. So I probably at the very start, maybe 4.
So did you switch those over to DCC or just they went to the wayside?
Oh, they went to the wayside. I don't even remember what I had at that time.
I had to throw that out there just because it's N scale, and I'm pretty sure it'd be a lot harder to actually install DCC into a DC.
Actually, I want to say one thing. Okay, I am a Cato person, Wakado or Kato or however you want to say it. Out of my 40 locomotives, 35 of them are Cato locomotives. And their DCC is take the shell off, unplug the light board, put the decoder in, and you're done.
Yeah, a lot of companies, even in HO, are starting to go that way too. Just plug and play systems.
Yeah,
but like I said, that's taking the price of DCC or DC, I mean, and the price is going up because of that. It's not just a basic DC wire job anymore with you put on the track and go. It's actually wired to be DCC. You just have to buy the chip for it then and plug it in.
Right.
And personally, I think that's not fair. I think there should be actually 2 levels of DC then. You can buy the cheap version, or you can buy the one that I can upgrade later if I feel like it, or you can buy DCC. Now, a lot of people are saying that in the chat too, especially when Anthony was up. It's what you're comfortable with, what your budget is going to be, and who knows down the road. Like, that's another thing, starting in DCC and then finding out later on that you can't afford it is even harder to do, I would think. So,
you know, and it's funny because everybody says that, oh, DCC is the wiring is so hard, the wiring is so hard, the wiring is so hard. But you mentioned this earlier, and if you just go with a basic loop and a bus line, that's all you need. Now, I watched the video this morning. I forgot the name of the channel. He's in Australia, and he was saying exactly the opposite. He says, everybody who thinks DCC is only 2 wires, they got another thing coming. And he flips his board over and he shows you everything that he's got on there, right? He's got BD block detectors, all kinds of stuff on there. And yeah, it looked like it was very neat, very neatly done. But he was saying, no, because if you want to have all of this stuff, it's more than 1 wire, more than 2 wires, I should say.
And it can be, the DC can be that way too. You can get into block wiring and signaling,
and exactly,
switches and everything else. Like I remember when Mark started M&M Rails, he started DC and he had all these little push buttons all over the place to run his switches and things like that. So it can get pretty extreme in the wiring that way too. So
yeah, when I started with the DC, if I wanted to run, blocks, I mean, I had toggle switches on my fascia to turn blocks on and off. And if I wanted to use 2 cabs, I had to have a double throw, double pole center off switch.
Right.
So I could switch back and forth between the cabs. But yeah, there was a lot more wiring, I think,
And I think that way too. Like my system's pretty big. People have seen it, the live streams and stuff following my train. And I will tell everybody right now, it is only 2 wires I have that run the whole length of my main line, all 3 levels, 2 wires. And I just take drop feeders off of that right now. That's it. I don't have extensive wiring for anything yet. So later on, I'm not saying it won't be, but right now, it's not. If anybody sees my train crash, let me know. So, Vinnie, the biggest question I got for you, you're going to talk someone that's just getting into the hobby. And what do you want to, like, should they go DC, DCC?
I think the trend that's going on now is everything's going towards DCC. So if anyone was going to ask me what to do, I would tell them to go DCC right from the get-go. Digitrax, and again, I don't know what the starter set would be on NCE, but you can get a Zephyr from Digitrax for like 150 or 160 bucks, and you got a DCC going,
There you go. And Chris from Go Veer Go Home had just mentioned too, don't forget to mention that a lot of DCC locomotives will run on DC.
Yes.
That is true, but if you actually read the manuals, they actually advise you not to do it.
And there's a reason for that, because they say because of the alternating current that the motors will get extra hot.
Yeah. So, but yes, they will.
But see, on a Digitrax, I believe on the Digitrax, if you do 0-0, you can run DC locomotives with no problems.
Yeah, I think it's that way for NCE too, but I have never actually tried it.
I have not tried it either.
And, which is a shame. I do actually have a couple DC locomotives I could try out. So.
Yeah.
So Heath is saying $30 and you can have a DCC command station. You do not need a Digitrax or NCE. And I'm pretty sure that's the, oh man, my mind just went blank. That's the system Tom's always talking about. DigiKeys. Yeah.
DigiKeys. Yeah.
Right. So I got 2 more down in the basement. I'm going to bring them both up at the same time. You stick around, Vinnie, just because you are the opposite of me. You're Digitrax to my NCE. But like I said, this isn't to actually sell anybody anything or say any system is better or anything else. James just got up. As soon as I said I'm going to bring him up, he got up and left. And we got RJ78. I'm going to bring him up too. And I'll ask him some questions in a bit. But the whole thing about DCC is it's just what you're comfortable with, basically. So,
Hi guys, can everybody hear me?
I can. Who was it?
Huh?
Okay. So again, the question for you guys: DCC. What did you have when you started?
I started out with DC, but that was back in like the late 90s, and DCC was this thing that, I don't know, I remember reading 4 digits for the cost of a system or something like that.
4 digits? Holy mackerel.
They were expensive. I was also really young, so anything over like $50 might have been $1 million.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I started out that way with DC on just plywood layout. But when I came back in, I wired everything for DCC. I ran a power pack for a little while just to test everything out, and then I got an actual DCC system after that.
Now, when you said you wired it for DCC, what do you mean? What's the difference?
Well, I wired all the buses in, and then all I did was just not hook them up to the track drops. And then once I actually got the DCC system in, then I wired in the actual like track drops. So I only had one at first coming down in the middle of the layout, and then I added everything in after that. So it took like all of 10 minutes to do, but it's also only 12 feet of layout. So
Train runs fine. Now all three of them have caught up to each other. I don't get it. But it's that British locomotive is causing all the problems. So when you did go DCC, though, did you still have some DC stuff?
I still have some DC stuff kicking around. I don't use it very much. I'm trying to convert it all over to DCC.
Humanity's saying get closer to your mic.
Oh, let me turn up my mic. I was recording some stuff. There we go. How's that?
Hey, I can hear you now too.
All right. I was recording some stuff and I have to turn my mic way down. Otherwise, it blows out the speakers and you can't hear me. But I went a little bit different of a route than most people. I went with the Pi Sprog right from the start. So my DCC system is all on my phone. Now with the UWT throttles coming out, I bought one of the physical UWT 50s, and whenever that comes next month or something like that, I'll have an actual physical throttle instead of just my phone.
So price-wise, yours would cost how much compared to ours?
Probably about the same as an NCE starter system, except the advantage is I don't have to go buy the USB thing for JMRI. JMRI is pretty much what runs everything for my system.
Oh,
I can bring in any Wi-Fi throttle for the most part and hook it up and have it running right away.
Really?
Yeah, it's about like $160 when you factor in the cost of the Raspberry Pi and whatnot. And if you upgrade the Pis, you need a Raspberry Pi 4. So if you're using a 3, it's a bit slow, and I don't suggest it.
Now, with that system, does it upgrade often, like every couple of years, and you'd have to buy new?
Well, you don't have to buy a new Pi every time you do anything. You can just upgrade the software. Anytime JMRI comes out with a new test software, I'm always trying it out every time it comes out. So I'm like on whatever the newest thing is, which as I was down in the basement, I was actually having a problem where I couldn't get the throttle to connect, which is another issue that we've been having with 4.23.4, where JMRI just doesn't want to connect the Wi-Fi throttles and stuff. So
now with your system, will it run everything on the layout, like turnouts, lights?
Yeah. I actually have, if I have the web throttle or the web thing going, I can actually pull up on my phone, go to the panels, and I can actually bring up my panel server right here and change some stuff by just tapping it.
That's on the Digitrax. That's on the, on the JMRI, correct?
Yeah, because it's all basically, JMRI is basically like the thing that's running it all. You can do the same stuff with NCE and whatnot. This is just one little box that's under my layout instead of a couple other things like with NCE where you have separate hardware for each thing.
Right.
I wouldn't really suggest it for somebody who doesn't know Linux and all that stuff. I'd say start out with whatever your friends run. If you have friends who run something and you're ever going to be going to their house, that's my biggest suggestion. Regardless of whatever you buy something that works with your friends. If most of them have NCE, buy NCE. If most of them have Digitrax, buy Digitrax. If you're going to join a club, figure out what your club has.
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've heard that quite a bit. So
yeah, that's my biggest suggestion is regardless of what you buy something that works with your friends so you can go over to their house and run stuff.
I just want to say hi to Jerry. We got CDP 1965 popping in. My bus wires go to the switch that can be changed to DC or DCC. Then from that goes to each controller. So that's like a double pole switch also. Robert's coming in saying, sorry he's late. You'll have to watch the replay. It's if you're thinking about DC or DCC or what system to get into. It's not a bad conversation to have. So Jerry Satterelli, that's good advice. Jerry did ask a question earlier about NCE. Will it run DC locomotives? It will. Like Digitrax, I'm pretty sure it's only 00 for cab number.
And it's not
Again,
that listed.
I have not tried it. So, Almar, everyone uses a phone or some sort of thing to run their trains during a power outage. So I'd have to get the connector to actually go into my laptop for that kind of thing. So Adam Cruz, I only went Digitrax because NMRA group that he was in uses for the mobile layout. And that's what we were just talking about. Like if you guys do have clubs or something in your area, it's always best to go check out the club stuff, see what they suggest, what they're running. And that way, if you do get that system, you're having problems with it, it's easy to take it to the club and say, listen, I don't understand how I'm operating. Like, I can't operate my switches right now. What am I doing wrong? And they'll go through it for you. But if they're running Digitrax, you buy NCE, you're pretty much on your own. Now, there is this great thing called YouTube that you can come on and ask questions.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, you can. I'm pretty sure you can find the answer. But again, it pretty much, if it's in the area, your friends are running it, like you said, it's probably your best bet is to go that way. So
one advantage that DCC would have is you can't really do something like this with DC. Hold on. So let's see. I think it's 5. Oh, it's supposed to decouple. It's not working properly.
Well, there's a selling feature.
My layout isn't perfectly level, so anytime I do this, if it's, the couplers don't have any slack in them. There we go. That's one thing you can't really do easily with DC is you can do it with magnets and whatnot, but instead I just hit a button on the controller here and it decouples stuff.
That's kind of cool.
That's cool. One thing you can't do with DC too easily. I mean, you can do the magnets and whatnot, but then you're limited to certain areas. So you kind of got to figure out what you want.
Yeah, for sure. So the question is, somebody comes up to you, they're just thinking about starting a layout or whatever. DC, DCC, and what's your advice?
My advice would be, if you can afford it, definitely do DCC. In the future, I think you'll find that you like the way things run. If you hate sound and whatnot, you can still get stuff without sound. You can turn it off, etc. Yeah, sure, you're paying a lot of money for that stuff, but you can also choose to get the DC or DCC ready stuff and go soundless. But I suggest just DCC personally. Your feature set is a lot wider, in my opinion.
Yeah, and like I said before, I think you get the sounds, bells and whistles and stuff, you fall in love with that, and you're never going to go back. And like you just said, if it does get a little annoying or you're running too many locomotives and stuff with that, it's easy enough to mute them. I've got all mine muted right now. So
yeah.
So I got RJ78 in the basement. Well, actually, he's right there. He's not in the basement. He probably thinks he's still in the basement, though.
Technically, yeah, I am in the basement.
Yeah,
I'm in my basement.
So tell us about what you got sitting there.
All right, so what you see is a lot of used stuff. This is where I guess my budget has been working for me. So obviously you can see I'm on DC. You see this set of track right here. This is from my first original train set that I got from 1989, just sitting here on the floor in the carpet. And then the one behind it is Easy Track that I got with this set, this Pennsylvania set, which is a Spectrum set, which also this is the controller for it. So it's your standard dial controller. And I just got an oval set up here. I'm just, pretty much just playing around, testing it out, messing around, trying to make some room down here so I can set up my platform from when I was a kid. It's actually up against the wall, buried somewhere. So I got to dig it out and bring it out and set it up. So it's pretty much right now I'm kind of new at it again, I guess you can say. I haven't done this since I was a kid, and I didn't really get much into it or detailed or anything like that back then. So now it's just more of I've gone on a buying spree. Anywhere I see cheap stuff, I pick it up. Like this Conrail here, I just picked up the other day. I think it was like $12. It's a Tyco Mantua. This Penn Central is actually a Pennsylvania unit that somebody painted and re-decaled it. I don't know how well you can see it, but It's an SD35. It's I think it's a Bachman. I don't remember where the box is for it, but that I paid $15 for. So
So
I mean,
yeah, you're kind of the other side of the coin now. You're getting into the hobby
Yeah.
again. And I'm not going to ask you how old you are because I think Santa Claus is actually younger than you are.
I'm 42.
That was nasty.
Oh, it was.
That's
sorry,
all good. That's what we do. We bust each other all the time. It's all good.
for sure, bud. So getting back into it, you're going DC now. Is that just because of your budget, or that's really what you want to get back into?
That's my budget. I mean, I wish I could afford the new stuff. I mean, this one right here is the newest one I have, and this one has a board in it, and it's got a pin connector on the bottom. So that's the only one that I have like that. Now, I don't know. It doesn't say on the box that it's DCC, but I think it's just because it's from 2004. So I don't even know if they had that in 2004. So I'm still learning a lot. There's a lot I don't know yet.
Yeah, maybe
So-
they can let us know in the chat if there was locomotives DCC ready back then. Because
No.
that no, okay, because that's what I was talking about with DC nowadays is getting a lot more expensive because a lot of them are just plug and play. You buy DC to start. See, I told you guys I'd mess this up all night. And you can just buy the board and plug it in, and that's what they're set up to do nowadays.
Mhm.
So, but Vinny's saying 2004, but that one could have been upgraded too, right? So,
Yeah,
but it
that's
could just
possible.
be DCC ready.
Here, let me see if I can flip it over and show it to you. I'm not 100% sure, but like I said, you can kind of, I don't know if you can pick it out. It's right there. You can see the pin connector and the wires. It doesn't have a lot of wires on it, but let me see if I can get you some better light here. Hold on. Somewhere I got a flashlight next to me. It's dark down here in the basement. There you go.
Yeah, okay.
See that better now?
Oh yeah.
And I did take the tender cover off, and there is like a circuit board in there, but thinking it may just be for, protection. I asked Nick's Crossing. I sent a picture of it to him, and he thought that it was a protection board because the controller says variable DC. So, but that's all it says on it.
So going DC, getting back into the hobby, and you were saying you got a couple of them like $12-15 type thing.
Yeah.
That is the good thing about DC. I mentioned that right off the bat. Going to train shows, you can find a lot of stuff, a lot older. Looks good to me still. You can get all the road names and everything, but it's
Right.
a lot.
It's almost, if it's something that you want to get into, like with the older stuff, what I'm finding is it's kind of like a what do you call it? A scavenger hunt, because you go from place to place. Like I've been going to hobby shops, and there's some hobby shops locally around me that sell stuff used, like Bernie's Model Railroad. I went to his hobby shop. There's stuff here that I got, like this GG1 I got from him. I think I paid, I don't even remember what I paid for it, but it wasn't much. I mean, it was cheap, like $35, maybe $40. I don't even remember. I'd have to find the receipt, but it was cheap. And, trying to just locate some of this stuff. Like I'm finding all kinds of Pennsylvania stuff now. These are all new. I just picked up yesterday. These cars here, this tank car and these box cars. But this one I picked up was marked down as a used, but it was brand new in the box.
Oh.
And then this one was a used one, and then the Penn Central's a new one, the Caboose. So I'm getting into the Pennsylvania and Penn Central, and obviously Conrail. I'm into Conrail.
Yeah, I love your hat. That I can't see right now, but yeah.
I'm not wearing it, but I am wearing a shirt. Plus, I did purposely set all these out here just to tease you.
Yeah, I know.
But you have the twin to this one, because that's the one I got from Bernie when you were down here. So this thing runs pretty good. It's just really noisy.
I've actually got plans for that DC locomotive that you gave me, so I'm gonna see if it works anyway.
Check it and see if it works. But mine works. It's just loud and obnoxious. Here, I'll throw it on quick for you.
Oh, sure. Like you're not loud and obnoxious enough. We got to listen to a train too.
Of course. Is my mic that loud? Because I am kind of sitting on top of my phone here. I'm like a kid on Christmas morning sitting in the middle of the oval here.
So I guess Pappy's trying to ask a question of what's everyone's opinion on MRC DCC systems?
That was the first system I had.
And I don't know that system, so that is a squeaker.
Yeah, it makes some noise.
MRC has been in business for quite a long time. They made a lot of DC power packs, and they got into the DCC world probably at the very beginning, before Digitrax was even big and before NCE was even big. I had it; it worked okay. To me, it had a throttle that was like the NCE throttle. It was big, and I didn't like the bulkiness of it, so I got rid of that, and that's when I bought my Digitrax system.
Jack's pewing in there saying MRC is awesome. If you guys see any questions and stuff in the chat, just feel free, because I'm watching the screen most of the time, so I always miss that. I'm going to bring Brian Page up and let him sit on the screen quietly for a minute. But RJ, the big thing with starting out, like I said, someone comes up to you and they want to get into the hobby. What are you going to tell them about how to do it?
Well, I guess I'm going to agree with what everybody else is saying, or a couple other people are saying about budget and what you can afford. I mean, obviously, what you see in front of me is what I can afford right now. Right now, I can't justify for me spending $300, $400 for a locomotive when I can spend $100 on 20 pieces of rolling stock.
Yeah.
But that's just me right now. I mean, that may change in the future, but I guess it all depends on what people are willing to spend, where they want to start with it. If DCC is the way to go and you can afford it, go with DCC, which eventually I would love to upgrade to that and get more into that. But as of right now, for me, I mean, I would probably suggest to them, start small, start cheap, work your way up to it. That's what I would suggest.
I'm just going to shut this off. So Anthony was saying a little bit earlier, and we'll jump over to Brian Page here in a second, but he said if he just runs DC, he might get bored with it because it's so quiet and it's kind of limited to what you can do then. So do you find that you get bored with your system?
No, not yet, because like today I had just one track sitting here on the floor. I guess you could say I kind of got bored with one track because I got all these trains sitting here. I was like, I want to run two now. So I pulled out the other track and set that up. So now I got two trains running. And then I added a storage spur onto it, just playing around. So, I mean, it all depends on what you consider to be boring to you.
Right.
I mean, me personally, it's kind of getting boring watching them go around and around and around and around. And it's only in a 2-foot area, but at least I'm running trains, Prior to getting this set over the weekend, I couldn't even run trains here at my house. I was always going up to JP's house to run them at on his layout, or, elsewhere, like next crossing, I ran them down at his house. But we kind of did the same thing as what I'm doing here. We set up fast track on his living room floor, and we were just running them on there overnight because I spent the night. So, but yeah, I guess it depends on what you consider boring to yourself.
And with DC, you can get a little more elaborate with your track plan too. Like you said, you've got true tracks, two main lines. They're separate, obviously. DC, that does make sense. But you can add switching. You can add industry and stuff like that. It's just you're running one train to do it all the time. Unless you get into more extensive wiring too. So,
right.
But I agree. It's all on what you can make out of it. So,
like I said, once I get some room and I can get the platform out and start playing around with that had a couple different lines on it. So I'll be able to mess around with that and see what I can do with that.
Well, I'm going to jump over to Brian Page now. I don't know why. He's not wearing a very nice shirt, but
he wore a nice shirt when he did the interview on my show.
Yeah. I knew that was coming. I knew I should have muted you.
Yeah. I'm waiting for somebody to give me one.
I told you, you got to go on Teesprings. It's around somewhere. So
there you go. We got a Conrail shirt right there.
Of course we do.
Yeah, my phone's frozen. Sorry, guys.
That's right. Mute yourself right now, RJ, or you can just do that. Yeah, whatever. So, Brian, DC, DCC, have you always had either?
I started out back in 1978, and DC was all I could get. So I started with that. When I started up again with this layout, I went DCC. And I'm seeing a lot of people with the MRCs, the NCEs, the Digitrax. Just as a counterpoint, I have the ESU cab control.
That's a nice system too.
Yeah, so far it's been working great.
Yeah, I did when ESU first came out in Canada. That system, I did buy it, and I was having problems with it because I'm not very patient when it comes to programming and stuff like that. So I actually gave mine to Peter, and he gave me his NCE system. So I ended up with 2 NCE systems, and he loves the ESU system. Thinks it's the best thing in the world. So
yeah, with this ESU, supposedly you can take a ESU decoder engine, just set it on the track, and it will automatically, show up in the throttle system.
yeah, it's supposed
However, I don't have it.
Oh.
But
Well.
it only takes about 5 minutes to put one in, so
That's not bad. So how much is your system then?
yeah, it's about $300.
So yeah, okay.
Well, probably a little bit higher, but I did buy it through Vinnie's code, so got a
Yeah,
little
but this
discount.
isn't his show. You can't say that.
Sorry, Sparky.
Yeah. So yeah, the NC or the ESU system is a little bit more. I think it was about $120 more expensive than NCE is. Again, it was new at the time. But the other thing with the ESU system is you can run a phone throttle after that too. It'll connect right to that system. So
Right.
as long as you got a cell phone or your friends have it, they just have to download the ESU app and away you go.
Yeah, this throttle is an Android device, and the only difference is it's got the big throttle wheel. So,
Which I thought was neat too, because that thing will actually turn without even touching
Right.
it.
yeah, it'll spring back.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a motorized throttle. So
So
Very
wherever you have the throttle set, if you move it in any direction, it'll go back to that specific spot.
well, only if let's say I switch engines, it will motorize to wherever the setting was for that other engine.
Okay, all right.
Or if I put it in reverse, if you spring it down, it goes into reverse,
Oh,
and then it'll motor back up.
Yeah, there is a bit of a learning curve with that system too. So
Right. And it wouldn't help with your glasses, I'm afraid. It's kind of small on the
that was
display.
another reason that it went to Peter. So
But the nice thing is you can just swipe over for the other engine.
Yep.
So
yeah, it is just like running a throttle off your smartphone, except for the
Right.
dial on the top. So
right. The only difference is I don't have to look at it as much. On the smartphone, you're always sitting there, trying to figure out what to do. This one's a little bit easier.
So starting out with DC, you went DCC. Someone comes up to you and says, I want to start a train layout. I've got average income. What are you going to tell them?
In that case, I'd say DC, or save up your pennies and do DCC. I mean, at this point in time, I would advise somebody to start DCC because it's, that's what you're going to end up with.
Yeah, like Vinnie said.
Everything's going that way anyhow.
Right. Right.
Now,
A lot of the odds and ends for the layouts, it's all going to work with DCC. So
Yeah.
just
Now-
work it slow, just go slow.
All right. So with the ESU system, the one thing we did talk about is get the system that is around you. So if your friends have the system, the club has the system, ESU is pretty new. What made you
Right.
go with that system?
Right.
Yeah. So what made you go with that system?
I just kind of like the simplicity, especially with the throttle. The throttle, I think, is what really sold me on it. Also, like I said, the programming is pretty easy. Even if you have a non-ESU decoder, it's pretty easy just to stick a locomotive in there. It only takes a couple minutes. So,
And Ravel Bell's chiming in there. He says, us oldies get left in the dust. And RJ was just up here. And like a lot of us have said, we started with DC.
Yep.
So just the money part of it is the big thing, I think. So, but again, like I said, nowadays manufacturers are going that it's only $100 difference in the locomotives. So
yeah, when I built my first system, I was in high school and I had a pretty lousy job. So, DC fit the bill back then.
we got Jerry sitting in the basement being nice and patient. Should we just leave him there? We'll bring him up.
Hey guys.
Hey, Jerry.
Hey, Jerry.
So we're talking about McDonald's or Burger King tonight. Just wondering.
Neither.
Yeah, I get you on that one.
So I just finished wiring my little layout yesterday. It took me 4 hours. Now my layout's not that big, and I'll do a little video of what I did, but it's DCC, and years ago, like RJ, I had DC, and then I have a lot of DC engines, so I don't know what I'm going to do with them. But you talked about getting into it and price wise, so I just got the NCE starter set,
Yep.
The starter kit, and it was $179.
Yeah.
And I originally was going to get the ESU system, and then I swayed off of that. And then John, I'm talking to John Schuylkill River. I was going to do the DCC plus, and then like Rick Bailey talked me out of that, and then yeah. So, and then I just got to Rick Bailey talked me out of it, and he has the NCE just like James was talking, and. The other day I got it, hooked it up, and I had a problem. So I took my throttle over to Rick's house to see if it was my throttle, and it wasn't. So it was good to have somebody with the system that you're going to get to help you if you have problems. Yeah. And really, like the MRC systems, they're pretty reasonable in DCC. And as far as logos, I mean, you can get in N scale, you can get DCC sound logos for $160, $170. I mean, they might not be exactly what you want, but they're out there. I mean, so yeah, I mean, it's not as cheap as $20, but I've bought DCC ready engines for $35, and yeah, you got to drop a decoder in. It probably doesn't have sound, but it's DCC.
Yeah, well, I'm starting to find you don't have to have sound in everything. You get a couple of locomotives going at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's all you need.
I mean, that's what drawed me to DCC was sound. I thought sound was like the best thing. It's like. For me, so yeah, just like you said, you don't need 40 sound locomotives. You could just get a couple, and they're probably going to be the ones you like, and you're going to run them.
Yeah.
For me, it wasn't really sound. It was just the ability to control the engine instead of the track.
I guess. See, like I don't know none of that. I'm not electrical. I don't understand a lot of model railroading, so but
the biggest thing with DC is you change the voltage on your track with the controller. So the more volts you put in it, the faster the train will go. You turn it down, it's less volts, it'll go slower. Right. When you get to DCC, we'll just say 16 volts going through the whole track, but it goes into a decoder that is programmed and you're telling the train to do certain things all the time by a computer chip.
Right.
So-
Okay. So I guess that's nice because you can run a bunch of locomotives all different speeds, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
different directions.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and with DCC, you don't see the lights dim as you turn the voltage down on the track, right?
Exactly.
Because the
That's
track, the voltage on the track is always constant.
Right.
Right.
So I
So I
think
just
there's
wanna say
something
thank
for
you.
everybody.
I just want to say thanks to Heath and Steve for the wig and the hat. Now, Jerry, you were just saying there you just wired your layout and stuff like that. Did you wire it differently because it's DCC?
I don't know what different is.
Okay,
So-
did you just run 2 wires under your track?
So I got a bus wire, right? And then I have a feeder.
Yep.
And then I have frog juicers
Yep.
because I have crossovers and I didn't want to get into those switches and like how to wire those. I mean, it was just the frog juicers, yeah, they're not cheap, but for a stupid person like myself who doesn't want to deal with all the complicated wiring, they made it so simple. So simple. Yeah, I mean, it was really, I mean, like I said, and it only took me long because I wanted to be neat about it. You know, if I didn't want to be neat about it, I could have probably did it in, an hour or two,
Now, Jerry, you just said for simple people or stupid people or something, the frog juicers are the way to go. I'm an electrician. I've been doing this for over 20 years.
Right.
I'm pretty good at my job. So there's a hex.
Yeah.
There's a dual.
Yeah. That's what I put in.
There's a dual.
Yeah.
There's a hex.
Yeah.
There's a dual. So this stuff isn't for stupid people or people that don't know. This stuff makes it really, really easy. Simple as that. So just do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's not cheap, but it's simple. And I
It
want
takes the headaches right out of everything. Trying to figure out polarity and all that kind of
Exactly.
stuff. Switching and
you don't have
insulated
to worry
rail
about.
trainer.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, it was like it was great. I mean, and up until this point, I was dreading wiring because even just looking at those juicers and the schematics, I don't know how to read a schematic. I don't know that stuff. So it was just like my head just wanted to explode just looking at it. It was like, and I just put it off and put it off and put it off.
And Shay, I'm doing this just for you because you said the beard too. So I'll give it all to you for now, bud.
Throw in a little bit of bell. You want to throw in a little bit of bell?
No, no bell.
You look like an Amish guy.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking too.
Mine
That
doesn't come
hair.
off.
Yeah, but you don't eat it as much either, I bet. So just getting started, Jerry.
Yeah.
And you said you went DCC,
Yeah.
but someone else comes up to you tomorrow on the street and says, "Hey, you're into the model trains and stuff, and I want to get into it. What should I do?"
Wow.
Average budget.
I think you could do it on an average budget. I think you can do DCC on an average budget. And it just depends what average is, right? I mean, right? All of our averages may be different, right?
For sure. But
yeah, I think you can. I mean, I'm cheap. I'm a cheap person. I don't like to spend a lot of money. So yeah, I think you can.
We're all talking about the cost of a system, but nobody's talking about how much it costs to do each locomotive or to buy a locomotive. I mean, like me, I have 40 locomotives. That means I bought 40 decoders.
Yeah. See,
At 25 to $30 a piece. So figure that out.
That's a lot. But if you're just getting into it, it's like, and I talked to Mike at Yankee Dabbler, and he's like, you can put a decoder in your old DCs but you can just get a new engine with sound for $150. You know, it's like it's not worth it. You know, just so you can keep running it and maybe you like that engine, but yeah, I mean it's a sentimental thing, but
The thing is, if you do shop around, you can find cheaper deals.
you can.
Yeah,
You
that's
really-
what I've been doing out here in
really can.
Texas. I just bought
really
two
can.
engines, no sound, but $200 each.
Yeah, you really
bad.
can. And you know, like I said, they might not be exactly what you want,
Mhm.
you know, but they're out there, you know, so like it might be like second best to you or something, you know. But if you look long enough and wait long enough, you can find what you want at the
Yeah.
price that you want.
And Art's kind of chiming in there in the chat too, and he says it depends what your time's worth. Well, if you take a model train layout,
Yeah.
your time is worth nothing. This is a pastime. This should be a hobby, something you're
Right.
having fun with. So to
Yeah.
me, that kind of thing you don't put a price on. So
No.
say you buy a cheap locomotive like RJ was doing there, and you really wanted that Mercedes type locomotive that you saw in the case right beside it. Say it's still DC. You can buy the parts for it. You can buy railings for it that'll make it better. You can paint it up the way you want it. You can do all kinds of things slowly but surely to build yourself up. You don't have to buy gold right off the bat. You can start with silver and bronze and just go up slowly. So
That's why I say start with DCC and just go slow if you don't have the budget.
yeah, I'm thinking like if you do want DCC, you might as well start with the system. Some out there are saying DCC is a very cheap system. I've heard it's like $30 to get started, basically. So, but again, like Vinny says, you're still looking at the locomotives and things, and they are the most expensive part of it, I would think. So, the other thing to look at too is how expandable is the system that you're getting into. So Vinny's Digitrax, I know that's very expandable. I'm NCE, that's expandable. Sure, DCC++, you could endless possibilities with that. Brian, I'm not sure about the ESU system, how expandable that would be. But again, a lot of that's just cell phones and stuff, right? So
Yeah, the ESU will actually take on several hundred locomotives.
Yeah, that was one of the nice things about that system.
Yeah, but it is expensive. And like
Yeah.
Jerry pointed out, you can find cheaper alternatives and still have DCC.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I was really hell bent on that ESU system, and then in the back of my mind, I was like, I don't really want to spend $400 on a system for my little tiny layout, you know. And at the same time, I didn't want to get one of the Zephyrs because it just took up too much space for me, right? So I wanted something compact, and the ESU was right there, and I never knew about this NCE starter set until Rick told me about it, and that thing takes up no room. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
you know, when I looked at NCE or Digitrax, it was all these big $600, $700 systems, and for me, that was like, you know, I don't need that. You know, I'm not gonna, you know, I don't know if that was all that was out there. I wouldn't be DCC. I would just be DC. So
But you also got the added benefit that you can take it over to Rick's house.
right, yeah. I mean,
and test it.
I could go over to Rick's house with my throttle and run trains, and I am thinking about getting some HO stuff so that I can go and run stuff on Rick's layout. So I mean, it gives you a lot of flexibility when you have people that have the system that you're running close by.
Right.
It's a support system, you know. Not that this community isn't, but it's nothing like taking that there and I'm a show me person, you know, so it's easy to walk through something and work it out than to talk to me about working it out.
Hey, Stevie, you ready? Okay, don't talk when you go up, though. M&M Short Lines Railroad was asking a question about how about a startup train set, DCC equipped, and then expand from there. Do they make a DCC starter set? Now, I know Bachman does DCC starter sets. I got one of those when I first started with DCC, and it has 10 buttons on it, so you could have 10 locomotives. But back then, it had to be DCC Bachman style. So the decoder and the train and everything had to be from Bachman, because I went out and bought a DCC locomotive, put it on the track, programmed it to that controller, and nothing happened. Now, people in the chat can say if that system's changed or not. I know because of the NMRA, I'm pretty sure everybody's got to be compliant for DCC now. So all the systems should match, and the Bachman system should actually match up.
So Sparky, the systems that I've been seeing lately that are the starter sets that they're getting for the that they're making it for the kids and that they're trying to make it easy. Bachman's doing it, Atlas is doing it now, and all that kind of stuff. They're actually not full DCC systems. They're systems that are able to be used with the phones.
Oh.
So it's not the, I guess you would say it's not the traditional total DCC signal where you could probably expand it. I'm not too sure about the expansions, but so even the newer sets that are coming out in a DCC easier digital world to work with.
So what kind of system would that be then? Like we've all got throttles like the NCE or the Digitrax and things like that. So does it just come with an interface type thing that would go right to your cell phone?
Pretty much, yeah. So
and again, would their locomotives then, are they only for that system?
I'm not too sure. I haven't looked at it that deeply because like I said, they're just starting to do this, and I think they're trying to do it so that they can easily get kids in, and they're at low price points. If you look at the Atlas one, they've got a passenger car that looks kind of like the Acceleron.
Okay.
It comes as a kit, and it's $99, but it's not real HO scale. It's kind of HO scale toy train. You know, whereas we're used to seeing like Lionel as a toy train. I know there's going to be a whole bunch of people out there. That's another discussion. But Lionel, in a sense, is more of a toy train, even though there's O scale, which is more of a scale train. But this was kind of the first time where you saw HO kind of going backwards to like what Tycho was, where they were more toy trains than they were scale models.
All right. And like you said, that's a whole new discussion that I just let the O scale guys and O gauge guys go with that. So that seems to be a common discussion on a lot of their live streams. So,
yep.
So, Steve, if you saw someone on the street, they just wanted to start out with model trains, they got the average budget, what's your advice to them?
So, you know, to be perfectly honest, and everybody has said this, right? It's about your price point, but I think it's more of what do you want to run? If you're going out and you want to see a train run around in a loop, what do you need DCC for? Right? There's no reason to do that. You can just get a DC system and it comes in fairly cheap. Even myself, I mean, I've got a 4x8, but I wanted to try DCC. So I got a Zephyr set. Now I can run 2 to 3 trains on there, and I do have some switching and all that. The thing that I noticed is when you start getting up to switching, when you start getting a little bit more complicated, you really need to almost go to DCC. Because I said in the chat, my revelation that I wanted to go to DCC was I went to a train club. It was the Boeing Employees Train Club, and I joined that for a little while. And they had a layout that they'd had for 35 or 40 years. And the only people who were allowed to touch the electrical was the 2 certified electricians that they had that worked with the company. And when I went underneath, and saw the just spaghetti, just rat's nest worth of wires. It's like, why do you want to do that? Why would anybody want to do that to themselves if they have a big layout?
I'm gonna shut my layoff off in a minute. I give up. I really do. There's only 2 trains running. They got to mess up too. So, so I guess the moral of the story of like we're at an hour and a half here. I didn't think it would. Well, I kind of knew it would go a little bit later, but the big thing that I'm seeing and hearing, and even in the chat and everything else, budget is the big thing. But the way I'm looking at it myself, and I just want to summarize it myself, and then you guys can too, for the broad picture of the whole thing is, if you ever think you want to go DCC, you might as well start out with it now. Ask around, find the system that can fit your budget, and go from there. You don't have to buy everything right now. You can start out with 1 locomotive and a starter set from NCE, Digitrax, DCC++. There's many versions out there to go, and you can build from there. Again, if you've got friends in the area, they can bring their stuff over. They can play on your layout then, and that way. Again, like Steve was saying, if you only want to run a loop or maybe a couple switches or that kind of thing, what do you need DCC for? Just run with DC and 1 controller, maybe 2. It's exactly what you want to do with it, I think, myself. So if anybody else wants to chime in on that kind of thing, and keep it broad, like I said, we're not selling anything to anybody. Keep an eye on the chat. Now's a great time, guys. If you do have a question about DC or DCC, throw it up. One of us 5 will jump on it. And like I said, that's the way I kind of see it, is if you're going to think about doing DCC, you might as well start that way. Go slow at the beginning, not a big deal. But if you go DC and you've always wanted to do DCC, you're going to kick yourself in the ass later when you've got 5-10 locomotives that you got at the train show, and now you got to put decoders in them. And that's really going to cost a lot of money then. So that's my thought, and I'll leave it up to you guys. But like I said, keep an eye on that chat in case someone does have a question. But Brian, if you want to take that away, just the final thoughts on the whole getting started, basically.
Yeah, like I said, there's cheaper alternatives out there for DCC. I would still recommend these days starting with DCC.
Yep.
Minster?
I agree with both of you guys. And if you're going to start a layout, you should start with DCC now and just go slow. 1 locomotive at a time. Start with the budget-friendly starter sets that you can get from either NCE, Digitrax, or ESU, or whatever company you can afford. Start with that and go from there.
Master Jerry.
Yeah, I echo everything everyone said. I mean, the starter sets are nice because you could build on them. And what you said about starting small, I know not everyone is like this, but everybody, you see all these layouts and big layouts, a lot of trains, a lot of engines, a lot of cars, and you want it all. But, I mean, it's like piece by piece. And I think over time, more and more DCC will become cheaper in the used market. So just like DC, right? I mean, I think, I mean, if you scour that auction place, you can find cheap DCC engines used. Again, they might not be exactly what you want. If you're a Conrail guy, they might not be Conrail. They might be BNSF or something, and you might have to paint them or live with it, right? So, yeah, I mean, I would start out with DCC too. I have DC stuff, and will I ever put decoders in them? Probably not.
Sparky must have had another runaway.
Oh, it's just begging me to shut it off, that's all. I think it was even saying, an hour's up, you idiot. We only play for an hour. After that, we're done. Steve, final thoughts, bud?
Yeah, I would say, and I was looking at the chat and all that. There's a lot of people who are saying, it's cheaper and all that kind of stuff. I think it is better to start with the DCC system. There's a couple of reasons for that. Even the DC locomotives that I had, when I went to DCC, I started with non-sound decoders. So they were 25, 30 bucks. So it's actually fairly cheap to change your motors over. And then as you go along, you get more and more stuff. And then one of the things that Jerry said about them coming down, yeah, they're going to start coming down because the engines that have Paragon 1 in them are going to come up for sale. The engines that have the Soundtrax initial stuff, it's going to come up for sale. All of those things are going to start coming up for sale because people have come up and went, wow, those decoders are they're garbage now compared to what I can do with the new ones that cook breakfast and stuff like that for me. So and I think you will see kind of a shift that you can start getting into DCC cheaper.
Yeah. And I kind of agree with what you're saying there. It's just like DC. You can go there now, find it $12-15 because DCC's out there. And it's going to be the same thing, like you said. Older stuff, DCC, is going to start hitting the market a lot cheaper because the new stuff coming out. People want that new stuff. Now, one last thing, and then we're going to end this. So you guys that's it. But another thing, YouTube's really brought a lot of us closer together. And I didn't know neighbors had trains. Here's something else you can think about. You got a DCC system. Talk to your neighbors what they got, but it doesn't hurt to ask, can I borrow your locomotive? Can I borrow your train set for a while? I want to run passenger for a bit. Can I borrow your set? Or barter, and you borrow mine, I borrow yours type thing. I've got James, I've got Sean, I've got so many guys right around my area that if I just want to run something, it's easy enough to say, hey, can I borrow it for a bit?
So on that point, Rick was talking me into this NCE system, and he has a starter set that he runs on his tree, and he's like, well, under his tree at Christmas time. And he's like, you can borrow mine and see if you like it. Right. I'm like, okay, cool, that's great. But like, I don't want to break it. And, it's not like, what am I going to do? Am I going to really hate it? I doubt it. But, the offer was out there, so I just bought it, but you're right. I mean, maybe you can borrow something from somebody.
Especially with especially with the starter sets and stuff. Like if somebody's got one and they say borrow it, it's just sitting around doing nothing anyway. So try it, check it out. Why not?
And the other good thing about DCC, Sparky, almost all of your rolling stock will run on DCC.
Yeah.
Yeah, it certainly will. Except the ones with sound.
Yep, the sound ones.
Yeah, but how many sheep and cows can you handle? Oh, I guess we can just ask Jason, right?
Yeah, exactly. We'll wait for his live stream on that one. So, okay, guys, I'm going to call it a night so you guys can drop off, or I'll have to kick you off, one of the two.
Good so, thanks. Thanks for having me.
See you all
Thank you, Sparky.
So that was really cool. I hope it helped out a lot of people in the chat, especially if you're just getting involved in the model train aspect, or thinking about making a layout, or making the jump to DCC, or you're not sure you want to go DC or not, or DCC. Some valid points were made, like the one Jerry made. If you're just running a loop or something, what do you need DCC for? You can sit there and if you got a cell phone, you can download sounds off your cell phone. If you really need a horn and stuff like that, easy enough just to hit that. There you got it. You don't need the DCC system. Again, talk to friends, look it up on YouTube. There's lots of research you can do before you actually buy a system. So I would suggest actually doing that, doing the research, asking some friends, asking clubs around. You don't even have to join the club. You can go to the club and say, listen, guys, what system do you run? Do you recommend it? What's the problems? What's the good parts about it? And go from there. I would say you can ask at the train store, but the problem with that is if they have 10 NCE systems and they got 5 Digitrax and they want to get rid of some of them, they're going to tell you what system to buy to get rid of it.
Yep, exactly.
I don't suggest actually asking a model train store. On that, that's pretty much all I got for you is, guys, if you're happy DC, run it because it makes you happy. If you're happy running DCC, then run that. It makes you happy. The whole thing is it's your hobby, your layout, your money. Do what you want with it. And as long as you're happy with it, that's all that matters. Vinny, you stuck around. Something else you want to say?
No, I just wanted to see it all the way to the end.
Yeah, okay. Well, you are cuter than I am tonight, so you're probably keeping a few people watching. So, can you get wooden trains with DCC? Mystic, you can probably get anything you want. DC and DCC is the same thing. It's only a shell, right? So, I'm not sure if you're trying to be a little smart with your comment or your question there, but again, it doesn't matter what's underneath, DC or DCC. It's just a shell. You want to put a wooden train on that? Knock yourself out, man. That would probably actually look pretty cool because I've seen some pretty nice wooden trains. So, again, if it makes you happy, that's what you guys got to do. So,
Thanks for having me up here tonight, buddy.
I appreciate it. I appreciate all you guys coming up and helping out. Normally, it's a very controversial subject. We were all really good boys. So, and like I said, I really
see you all on Friday, I guess, huh?
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Take care, guys.
Look at that, he left. About time, eh? No, I'm kidding. No, I appreciate everybody in the chat too. I missed quite a bit of the chat watching the cameras and stuff like that, what people were doing. Sparky, can you email Amy? I don't know. I'm not sure if I can or not. But if you got my email, go for it. And my email is on my homepage here at YouTube. Just go there. You just got to make sure you're not a bot, and then it will let you go through. So, but my email is like really busy lately. It's getting 60 to 100 emails a day. So if I don't respond right away, that's why. You two look like you could be father and son. I hope he was the father. Like I said, guys, I hope it was very informative for you. Helped some newer people out, some people that think about switching or staying. That's all you can really do. So, again, make yourself happy. That's it. Okay, guys, that's all I got for you. It's been an hour and 38 minutes, and I haven't eaten dinner yet. So I'm going to use the old Vinnie line. I got to go get something to eat. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for the chat. I can't wait to watch the replay and read everything. And thanks for hanging out. Bye for now, guys. Bye.